The Middle East has been home to one of the world's longest and most complex conflicts. What began over a century ago as competing national and religious claims has evolved into a seemingly endless struggle involving wars, occupation, diplomacy, and international intervention. In today's video, we'll take you through the key moments that shaped the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the broader Middle East turmoil, all in just 10 minutes. Let's dive in. Ancient roots and religious significance. The land that is now Israel and Palestine holds deep religious importance for Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. Jews trace their connection to the land back to biblical times, while for Muslims the region is significant because it contains Jerusalem, home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Islam's third holiest site. Historically, this land was ruled by empires, including the Romans, Byzantines, and Ottomans. Under the Ottoman Empire, the area was largely peaceful, but the seeds of modern conflict were sown in the late 19th century with the rise of Zionism, a Jewish nationalist movement aiming to establish a Jewish homeland in what was then Ottoman-controlled Palestine. World War I and the British Mandate. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire during World War I opened the door for new powers to shape the future of the Middle East. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration by the British government promised support for the creation of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. At the same time, the British made conflicting promises to the Arab population who also sought independence. After the war, Palestine came under British control, setting the stage for escalating tensions between Jewish immigrants moving to the land and the Arab population who had lived there for centuries. The Holocaust and the creation of Israel. Fast forward to World War II, where the Holocaust deeply impacted global attitudes toward Jewish statehood. After the war, Jewish migration to Palestine surged, intensifying clashes between Jews and Arabs. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a partition plan that would divide Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. The Jewish community accepted the plan, but Arab leaders rejected it. In 1948, following the withdrawal of British forces, the State of Israel declared its independence. This prompted immediate attacks by neighboring Arab countries, marking the start of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Israel emerged victorious, but the war left hundreds of thousands of Palestinians as refugees, creating a legacy of displacement and resentment that continues to fuel the conflict. The 1967 Six-Day War and Israeli occupation. In 1967, tensions exploded again with the Six-Day War. Israel, anticipating attacks from Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, launched preemptive strikes, capturing significant territories including the West Bank, Gaza Strip, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. This victory dramatically altered the region's landscape. For Palestinians, the war meant military occupation as Israel took control of territories they had hoped would form their future state. For Israelis, it was a victory that expanded their borders but increased security threats. The occupied territories remain central to the conflict today, with ongoing disputes over land, settlements, and sovereignty. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, and the rise of resistance, 5 to 6 minutes. In response to Israeli occupation, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, was founded in 1964, becoming the main representative of the Palestinian people. Led by Yasser Arafat, the PLO sought to reclaim Palestinian land, initially through armed struggle. This period saw numerous attacks and reprisals, with Israel viewing the PLO as a terrorist organization. However, as the years passed, the PLO shifted toward diplomacy, recognizing Israel's right to exist and seeking a two-state solution, though many obstacles still stood in the way. The First and Second Intifadas. By the late 1980s, the situation boiled over with the outbreak of the First Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli rule in the occupied territories. This marked a new phase in the conflict, characterized by civil disobedience, protests, and violent clashes. The uprising drew international attention to the plight of Palestinians living under occupation and led to calls for peace negotiations. Despite this, tensions remained high, and in the early 2000s, the Second Intifada erupted. This period was far more violent, with suicide bombings, military incursions, and widespread destruction. The Intifadas deepened mistrust between both sides, making peace seem even more elusive. Attempts at peace, Camp David, Oslo, and roadblocks. Despite the violence, there were significant attempts at peace. The Camp David Accords in 1978 marked the first time an Arab nation, Egypt, recognized Israel in exchange for the return of the Sinai Peninsula. This was followed by the Oslo Accords in the 1990s, which raised hopes for a lasting peace. Israel and the PLO agreed on a framework for Palestinian self-rule, but the assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin in 1995 derailed much of the progress. Subsequent peace efforts, including the Camp David 2000 summit, also failed, with key issues like the status of Jerusalem, Israeli settlements, and Palestinian refugees remaining unresolved. The rise of Hamas and the Gaza conflicts. In 2005, Israel withdrew its forces and settlers from Gaza, hoping this would lead to peace. Instead, the militant group Hamas took control of Gaza, leading to a split in Palestinian leadership. While the PLO, now led by Fatah, remained the representative for the West Bank, Hamas controlled Gaza and opposed Israel's existence. This division has led to several wars between Israel and Hamas, with rocket attacks from Gaza met by Israeli airstrikes. Civilians on both sides have paid the heaviest price, and the humanitarian situation in Gaza remains dire. Why is the conflict so difficult to resolve? At its core, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a struggle over land, identity, and justice. For Israelis, the creation of their state was the realization of a historic right and a sanctuary from persecution. For Palestinians, it represents a loss of homeland, displacement, and a struggle for self-determination. Attempts at peace are often blocked by extremists on both sides, while international diplomacy struggles to mediate lasting solutions. Key issues like the status of Jerusalem, the right of return for Palestinian refugees, and Israeli settlements in the West Bank remain flashpoints. The Middle East conflict is far more than just a regional dispute. It's a complex web of history, religion, politics, and human suffering. While peace seems elusive, understanding the history behind the headlines is the first step toward a clearer picture. Thanks for watching Factways. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on more global deep dives.